Alright everybody, welcome back. So yes, we are back in the F-14. It feels like every other update now that I'm doing a video about some other F-14 change, and here we are. This is more of an indirect change, but yeah, the F-14 really benefited from the multipath change. Some other jets did as well, but especially the Tomcat. Before we get to that though, what if I told you you could earn free Golden Eagles for that next Vehicle Stock Grinder event? That's right, free Golden Eagles for War Thunder can help. Using the app, you can earn Golden Eagles for easy tasks such as surveys or games, or even just inviting your friends. Use my referral code 7KVGK to get an extra free 10 Golden Eagles from the start. So what are you waiting for? Download the app in the description below and start earning Golden Eagles today. Back to the Tomcat now, and the indirect buff that it got with this multipath change. So if you've been living under a rock or haven't seen any of my recent videos and don't know what multipath is, essentially, multipath is a ghost image that is created at extremely low altitudes, even with pulse Doppler radars, right? And this causes there to be a second image of the aircraft that appears to be under the ground. This confuses the missile or the radar, whatever it may be, and they will miss and go into the ground, right? Now, previously on the last update, this was set at 100 meters. Gaijin changed it to 60 meters by popular demand this patch. And although every radar-focused aircraft has benefited from this in some way, the F-14 in particular really does, and that's because of its signature weapon system, the AIM-54. This was originally intended to target bombers, and of course, although we don't have bombers in War Thunder, we can shoot it at fighters, and it's alright at killing planes, so long as they aren't maneuvering hard or anything else like that. It's no AMRAAM, but it is capable of hitting people in a couple situations where either they fly in a relatively predictable path, they don't maneuver incredibly hard, or they're at very high altitude. Going back to the last one, I will say one of the things in the multipath change is that you do have people that are climbing a lot more now than they were before. So you may actually be able to beam some people up high with these Phoenixes, and if you're playing the 11.7 one like I am right here, most of the time you're not going to have to worry about AMRAAMs for the most part. You will have a couple people playing stuff like the AB-8B that's at 12.3 that you may have to watch out for, just like this guy right here. But I really haven't had any AMRAAMs fired at me. I think I had to deal with like a single J8F with PL-12s, and that's about it. And a lot of the time you're going to be getting, 11 or 12 games where there are no AMRAAMs at all. This leaves you as the only aircraft in that matchmaker that has active radar armed missiles. And although, of course, that doesn't mean you're invincible, as we can see right here, I still get Magic 2 in the head-on. It does leave you in a pretty good spot. This is only a small part of what makes the AIM-54 so really scary this update, right? And it's the fact that now if you do try to multipath, because it's still possible at 60 meters, just difficult, you're much closer to the ground than you used to have to be previously. What does that mean? Well, when the AIM-54 actually hits, of course, it's going to explode, which in my opinion it shouldn't, but it is going to at the moment. And that is going to send shrapnel and a bit of high explosive everywhere. And remember, the Phoenix has the explosive mass of a small bomb because it was intended to be shot at, formations of enemy bombers. This means that splashes are going to do damage at a much higher altitude compared to stuff like the AMRAAM, the AIM-7F, everything else, just simply because it has so much more explosive mass than it did previously. I've actually had cases myself where an AIM-54 hit the ground nearby, broke one of my elevators, and then I got sent to the ground immediately afterwards because of it. I've been seeing squads of F-14s racking up kills early game now because of this, and either F-14 can do it. I just personally prefer playing the 11.7 ones because, surprise, surprise, it can't face top tier anymore. Top tier is now 13.0, and that means it's sucking up pretty much everything, in the region above it, whether that be the 12.7s and to a degree the 12.3s as well. You do have a relatively alright matchmaker in 12.0, but I still just would rather not have the chance at all of getting up tiered. And this gives me that. And on the off chance that I get a 10.7 game like I did right here, although all my Phoenixes missed in this case, unfortunately, most people died before they got there. Some of these planes aren't going to have RWRs, and that's going to make these things even more lethal than they already are. Now, the AIM-54 isn't the only part of the Tomcat, of course, and it is still a 4th gen aircraft, which means that it has better flight performance than basically all the 3rd gens, especially because the MiG-23s just got nerfed. Just make sure if you are going to be going into a dogfight, throw the wings forward, and keep in mind that you don't really want to be going up in a dogfight against the other 4th gens that you may have to fight, like the F-16 or the F-15. You can beat them, don't get me wrong, it's very much possible, but the F-14 is just a much worse airframe than something like the F-16, for example, when it comes to a dogfight. it just doesn't have the power behind it to really help it to keep up at those lower speeds. These engines are very much optimized for higher speeds. The F-14B is a little bit better in that regard because it has, the later engines that have better low-speed thrust, but it's still not going to be able to keep up with something like an F-16 in a dogfight. But that's fine because the strong suit of this thing has always been the kit, not necessarily the flight performance, so that was a very nice aspect to it. And you do get access to the AIM-7F and the AIM-9H along with those Phoenixes that I already mentioned. So the AIM-7F, you're all very familiar with it at this point, I'm sure. It is a good SAR missile, especially for 11.7. It doesn't compare to something like the R-27ER, but it is very much comparable with something like, the Super Temp Skyflash or the R-530D. You're not going to have to worry. The Sidewinder is the only somewhat weak aspect of this aircraft at 11.7. It's still a totally fine missile. It has the same range as the AIM-9L. It pulls 18 Gs, which is enough to get someone as long as you're not trying to fire it at like an extreme, off four-side angle. Someone isn't just going to accidentally outmaneuver it, but it is still a rear aspect only missile, which is a bit of an L moment, especially because it means it also has worse flare resistance than the all aspect stuff. Just a friendly reminder, the Mirage 2000 has the Magic 2, the same battle rating. Another weak point is that because this is the F-14 quote-unquote early, we have the original RWR, which is essentially useless. All it tells you is low, medium, or high. That's it. Like, nothing else. It doesn't tell you what is looking at you. A lot of planes, it won't give you a launch warning on either, and so realistically, I just have to pretend that everyone that I see on my radar is shooting at me, because I don't know if it actually is going to be giving me that launch warning. Another weak aspect is its ability to defend against IR missiles' rear aspect, because, these are two very big engines spaced relatively far apart, and they burn incredibly hot as well. As you can see, without afterburner, they're running 1153 degrees Celsius. So a lot of the time in this thing, especially with something like an R27 or an R73, if someone fires at you at relatively close range, you're just basically not going to be able to flare it. Even stuff like the AIM-9L. I've had them ignore my flares at side aspects sometimes if I just couldn't drop throttle fast enough. And only having 60 countermeasures as well is a little bit of an oof, but the good news is now you have split countermeasures where you can use separate keybinds for your chaff and your flares, so that really helps if you're having to defend against stuff up high, so you can just pop chaff without having to worry about getting rid of all your flares as well while you're at it. In any case, hope you enjoyed the video. I will be back to patch content, later this week. I just had to throw this out here. I haven't seen any other content creators covering it just yet, but it's incredibly stupid. So, have a great day, and peace, y'all.